You've been trying to change your life for years. New Year's resolutions, fresh starts, motivational videos. And yet, here you are, same habits, same results, same frustration. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud: the problem isn't you. The problem is your system. What if I told you that getting just 1% better every single day makes you 37 times better by the end of the year? And getting 1% worse every day, just a little lazier, a little more comfortable, you'll decay to nearly zero of your original potential. Let's start with the story James Clear opens the book with, because it perfectly sets up everything we're about to cover. The year is 2003. British cycling, one of the most historically underperforming sports programs in the world. In 76 years of Olympic competition, British cyclists had won exactly one gold medal. One. In professional road racing, it was even worse: no British cyclist had ever won the Tour de France. Not once in the history of the race. Then the federation hired a new performance director. His name was Dave Brailsford. Most coaches in his position would have done the obvious things: better training, better athletes, more funding. Brailsford did something completely different. He introduced a philosophy he called the aggregation of marginal gains. His idea was beautifully simple. If you broke down every single thing that goes into riding a bike and improved each of those things by just 1%, those tiny gains would add up to something remarkable. So they started improving everything. The obvious stuff first: nutrition, training schedules, bike ergonomics. But then they went further. They tested different massage gels to find which one helped riders recover fastest. They taught riders the most effective way to wash their hands to reduce the chance of getting sick. They figured out which pillow and mattress produced the best night's sleep, and brought those pillows and mattresses to every hotel the team stayed at during competitions. They even painted the inside of the team truck white, so they could spot dust particles that might affect bike performance. 1% here, 1% there. None of it was dramatic. None of it made headlines. The results did. Within 5 years, at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the British cycling team won 8 gold medals out of 10 events. They shattered 9 Olympic records and 7 world records in the process. 4 years later, at the 2012 London Olympics, they were even more dominant. And in 2012, a British cyclist named Bradley Wiggins became the first Briton in history to win the Tour de France. The year after that, Chris Froome won it. Then again. And again. Over a 10-year period, British cyclists won 59% of all gold medals available at the World Championships. All of it traced back to a man who asked one simple question: what happens if we just get a little bit better at everything? That is the power of atomic habits. Why small habits make a big difference. Here's the map that James Clear lays out, and it's genuinely mind-bending. If you get 1% better each day for 1 year, you end up 37.78 times better by the time you're done. If you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you decline to nearly zero. What you do today doesn't seem to matter much. You skip the gym, you still look the same. You eat badly for 1 day, the scale doesn't move. You read for 20 minutes, you don't feel smarter. But that's an illusion. Every action is like casting a vote. Every single thing you do is a tiny deposit into who you are becoming. The results don't show up immediately. They show up months later, sometimes years later, and then suddenly, everyone around you is asking, what happened? How did you change so fast? You didn't change fast. You changed slowly, invisibly, and then all at once. James Clear habits are always working. You just can't always see them working yet. We'll come back to this later because it's one of the most important ideas in the entire book. Here's a statement that challenges everything we've been taught: goals are almost useless without systems. Think about it. Every athlete at the Olympics has the same goal: win a gold medal. So the goal can't be what separates the winner from everyone else. Every entrepreneur wants to build a successful company. Every student wants good grades. Goals are shared. What isn't shared is the daily system, the habits, the routines, the processes. James Clear makes 4 arguments against goals being your primary focus. First, winners and losers have the same goals. The goal didn't make the difference. Second, achieving a goal is only a momentary change. You clean your room. Great! But if you haven't changed the habits that made it messy, it'll be messy again in a week. Third, goals restrict your happiness. You tell yourself, I'll be happy when I achieve this. You put your happiness on hold, hostage to an outcome you can't fully control. The solution? Fall in love with the system. Fall in love with the process. Because a system that works will always produce the results, eventually, consistently, sustainably. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That line alone is worth the price of the book. James Clear describes behavior change happening on 3 levels. Picture 3 concentric circles, like a bullseye. The outermost layer is outcomes. This is what you get: losing weight, finishing a book, winning a championship. The middle layer is processes. This is what you do: your workout routine, your writing habit, your meal prep schedule. Most people, when they try to change their habits, start from the outside in. They focus on outcomes. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to make $1 million. I want to run a marathon. James Clear argues that this approach is fundamentally backwards. The most effective and lasting change starts from the inside out. You start with identity. You ask not, what do I want to achieve, but who do I want to become? Here's a simple but razor-sharp illustration Clear uses in the book. Someone offers you a cigarette. You're trying to quit. 2 possible responses. Response A: no thanks, I'm trying to quit. Response B: no thanks, I don't smoke. Response A says, I am a smoker who is fighting against my own nature. My identity is someone who smokes, and I'm trying to override it through willpower. Response B says, that's not who I am. My identity is someone who doesn't smoke. The second response requires no willpower. It requires no fight. It's just a reflection of who that person is. And when your habits align with your identity, you stop needing motivation. You stop needing discipline. You just act like yourself. Here's where it gets powerful. James Clear says, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. How to shift your identity? 2 steps. Step 1. Decide who you want to be. Not what you want to achieve. Who do you want to be? What values do you want to embody? What kind of person handles life the way you want to handle it? You want to be a reader? Read 1 page tonight. That's a vote. You want to be healthy? Choose the salad ones. That's a vote. You want to be disciplined? Make your bed this morning. That's a vote. The transformation isn't sudden. It's accumulated. Vote by vote, habit by habit, day by day, until one day you look in the mirror and realize, that person I wanted to become, that's just who I am now. Before you can build better habits, you need to understand the machine underneath every habit you have, good or bad. Every single habit in your life runs on a 4-stage neurological loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. The craving is a motivational force. It's not the habit itself you crave, it's the change in state the habit delivers. You don't crave checking Instagram. You crave the feeling of being stimulated, entertained, connected. You don't crave cigarettes. You crave the relief from stress they provide. The craving is the why behind the action. The reward is the end goal of every habit. The reward satisfies the craving, and it teaches your brain which behaviors are worth remembering. Your brain is essentially asking two questions. Did that feel good? Should I do it again? Remove any of these 4 stages, and the habit falls apart. Understand all 4, and you can engineer any habit you want. The 4 laws of building good habits. Law 1. Make it obvious. The first law targets the cue. The first step to changing your habits is simply becoming aware of them. Most people are sleepwalking through their days. Awareness breaks the trance. Research shows that one of the biggest reasons people fail at habits isn't lack of motivation, it's lack of clarity. People say, I want to exercise more, but never decide when and where they'll exercise. So it never happens. I will meditate for 10 minutes at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. I will write 500 words at 9 p.m. at my desk. I will go for a 30-minute walk at 6 p.m. after work. Specific. Scheduled. Location locked. Studies show this simple formula dramatically increases the likelihood of following through. Another powerful technique. Instead of scheduling habits at a random time, you anchor them to something you already do. The formula, after I, current habit, I will, new habit, dot. After I sit down at my desk, I will write my top 3 priorities. After I get into bed, I will read for 20 minutes. You're essentially using existing habits as triggers for new ones, building a chain of behaviors that flows naturally through your day. Environment design. This is one of the most underrated ideas in the book. James Clear argues that we think our behavior is driven by motivation and willpower. In reality, it's driven far more by our environment. And Thorndike, a physician at Massachusetts General Hospital, did a fascinating experiment. Without a single conversation about nutrition, she simply redesigned the cafeteria, putting water next to every register, moving soda to less accessible places, placing healthy foods at eye level. Over 3 months, soda sales dropped 11.4% and water sales increased by 25.8%. Design your environment to make good habits obvious. Put your guitar in the middle of your living room if you want to play more. Put your vitamins next to the coffee machine. Sleep in your workout clothes if you want to exercise in the morning. And conversely, make bad habits invisible. If you waste time on your phone, put it in another room. If you eat junk food mindlessly, don't keep it in the house. You don't have to be the victim of your environment. You can also be the architect of it. Law 2. Make it attractive. The second law targets the craving. Temptation bundling. This is the most immediately practical technique in this section. The idea, pair a habit you need to do with something you genuinely want to do. Only listen to your favorite podcast while you're at the gym. Only watch your favorite show while you're folding laundry. Only get your favorite coffee drink when you sit down to work on your most important project. Your brain starts to associate the thing you need to do with the pleasure of the thing you want to do. The habit becomes something you look forward to rather than something you dread. The role of culture. James Clear makes an observation that most habit books miss entirely. We don't just adopt habits based on what works, we adopt habits based on what our tribe does. The close, family and friends. become your habits. If everyone around you exercises, you're far more likely to exercise. If everyone around you drinks heavily, you're far more likely to drink heavily. The many, society and culture. We look to the crowd for cues on how to behave. It feels safer to follow the herd. The powerful, those with status and prestige. We want to adopt the habits of people we admire and aspire to become. One of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. Reframing your mindset. Here's a subtle but powerful shift. Most of us frame our habits as obligations. Things we have to do. I have to work on this project. What if you reframe them as opportunities? I get to go to the gym. My body is capable of movement. I get to cook. I have food in a home. It sounds small. It changes everything. The feeling you bring into a habit shapes whether it becomes something you sustain. Law 3. Make it easy. The third law targets the response, the actual behavior itself. We think the path to better habits is motivation, inspiration, willpower, the perfect playlist, the right mindset. Clear argues that all of that is secondary to one thing: reducing friction. This means the habits that survive long term are almost never the ones that require the most effort. They're the ones where the path of least resistance leads to the right behavior. Want to exercise more? Sleep in your workout clothes. Put your gym bag by the door. Make starting so frictionless that the habit is almost automatic. Motion versus action. Motion is planning, researching, strategizing, outlining, thinking about doing something. Action is actually doing the thing that produces a result. Motion is not the habit. Action is a habit. Stop planning to start. Start starting. The 2-minute rule. One of the most famous and most actionable ideas in the entire book. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Read before bed each night becomes read one page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Study for my exam becomes open my notes. Run 3 miles becomes put on my running shoes. This sounds almost insultingly simple. But the logic is airtight. The ritual of starting is the habit. Master the art of showing up. Commitment devices. Sometimes the best way to make a habit easy is to make the decision in advance, when you have clarity and willpower, so that you don't have to decide in the moment, when you're tired, distracted, or tempted. Victor Hugo famously had his assistant lock away all his clothes during a writing deadline. With no way to go outside and socialize, he had no choice but to write. He finished The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Modern examples: setting up automatic savings so money moves before you can spend it. Using website blockers during work hours. Meal prepping on Sundays so you don't make bad food decisions during the week. Remove the decision. The behavior follows automatically. Law 4. Make it satisfying. The fourth law targets the reward, and it addresses the most brutal challenge of habit building. The cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded gets repeated. What is immediately punished gets avoided. This is the core of how the brain learns. And it creates a massive problem for anyone trying to build good habits. Because most good habits have delayed rewards and most bad habits have immediate rewards. You exercise today. The benefit comes months from now. You eat a salad. You won't feel the health impact for years. You save money. The payoff is decades away. Meanwhile, you scroll Instagram. Immediate dopamine. You eat the cake. immediately delicious. You stay in bed instead of going to the gym. Immediately comfortable. The brain doesn't care about your future self. It cares about right now. This is why willpower almost always loses to temptation over time. The temptation is offering something real and immediate, while willpower is defending an abstract future benefit. So how do you fight this? You manufacture immediate rewards for good behaviors. Habit tracking. Get a calendar, or a journal, or an app. Every day you complete your habit, mark an X, cross it off. Check the box. That mark is immediately satisfying. Your brain gets a tiny reward the moment you complete the behavior. And over time, something powerful happens. You start caring about the streak. The visual progress itself becomes motivating. James Clear says, don't break the chain. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. If you miss a day, and you will miss days, the rule is, never miss twice. Get back on track immediately. One missed day doesn't ruin anything. The spiral of missed days does. The Goldilocks zone of habit tracking. Never miss twice. Clear calls this one of the most important rules in the book. Everyone misses. Everyone has bad days. The difference between people who build lasting habits and people who don't isn't that the former are perfect. It's that when they fall off, they get back on immediately. The first mistake is never the one that ruins you. It's the spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. Show up on your bad days, even if you can only give 20%. Because showing up, even imperfectly, keeps the identity alive. It tells your brain, this is still who I am. Everything we've covered about building good habits has an exact mirror for destroying bad ones. You simply invert the 4 laws. Make it invisible, remove the cue entirely. You can't want what you can't say. Don't keep junk food in the house. Delete the apps that waste your time. If you can't stop checking your phone, leave it in your car when you get home. Your environment is making bad habits easy, redesign it. Make it unattractive, reframe your mindset around the bad habit. Focus on the cost, not the pleasure. Smoking gives you 10 minutes of relief and takes years off your life. Scrolling gives you 20 minutes of entertainment and leaves you feeling empty, behind, and anxious. Say it out loud. Make the true cost vivid and real. Make it difficult, add as much friction as possible. The bad habit should require effort. The more steps between you and the behavior, the less likely you are to do it. Log out of every site. Unplug the game console. Keep your credit card in a different room from your laptop when shopping online. Make it unsatisfying. Create accountability. Find a partner who will hold you to your commitments. Create a real consequence, a habit contract, where you agree to pay a fine or face a real cost if you slip. Public commitment works too. The social pain of breaking your word is a powerful deterrent. James Clear makes a point most people don't want to hear. Your bad habits are not just neutral, they're actively compounding against you. Every time you skip the gym, you cast a vote against being a healthy person. Every time you scroll instead of working, you cast a vote against being a focused, productive person. Every time you reach for a drink to handle stress, you cast a vote against being someone who handles difficulty well. Just as good habits compound in your favor, bad habits compound against you, quietly, invisibly, until one day the weight of them becomes undeniable. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. And then gradual, consistent improvement. This is the section of the book that James Clear wrote for everyone who has ever tried to build a habit and quit. Picture a block of ice sitting on a table. The room is at 25 degrees. 26 degrees, 27 degrees, 28, 29, 30. Nothing is happening. The ice just sits there. You'd be forgiven for thinking the temperature isn't changing anything. But underground, in the molecular structure of the ice, everything is happening. The energy is building. The change is real. You just can't see it yet. And then, 32 degrees. The ice melts. All at once, dramatically, completely. Was 31 degrees wasted? No. Every single degree of temperature was essential. Without them, 32 never arrives. Your habits work exactly the same way. You work out for a month and don't see a difference in the mirror. You meditate for 6 weeks and still feel anxious. You write every day for 3 months and still feel like you have nothing to say. And this is a moment most people quit. They assume the habits aren't working. They assume they're the exception, the person for whom this stuff just doesn't apply. But they're not failing. They're at 31 degrees. James Clear calls the gap between starting your habits and seeing their results the valley of disappointment. It's the most dangerous place on the journey because the work is real but the rewards aren't visible yet. Push through it. The results are not delayed, they are accumulating invisibly. And one day, you'll hit your 32 degrees. Your body changes. Your business takes off. The writing flows. The clarity arrives. It didn't happen fast. It happened the day you decided not to quit. Here's something counterintuitive. The best habit is not the one that someone else told you to build. It's the one that aligns with your natural abilities and inclinations. James Clear talks about the importance of choosing habits where your natural strengths give you an advantage. When you're doing something that feels like flow to you but work to everyone else, that's a sign you're in the right arena. You can work hard at anything. But when the habit aligns with who you naturally are, the compounding is even faster. The questions to ask yourself: what feels fun to me that feels like work to others? What comes naturally to me that others struggle with? Where do I lose track of time? Build habits in those directions. The progress comes faster, the motivation stays higher, and the identity sticks more naturally. Here's a fascinating paradox James Clear raises. As a habit becomes automatic, as it becomes part of your identity, you stop paying conscious attention to it. This is mostly good. Automation frees up mental energy. You don't have to think about brushing your teeth, so your mind is free for other things. But in the domains where you want to keep growing, career, relationships, creativity, performance, this automation can become a trap. You get good enough and stop pushing. You've built the habit, but you've stopped improving. The solution is what Clear calls mastery is equal to habits plus deliberate practice. Automate the basics so they're effortless. Then deliberately and consciously push beyond the automated level. The professional musician doesn't just practice, they target their specific weaknesses. The elite athlete doesn't just train, they obsessively analyze what needs to improve. Build the habit first. Then use the habit as a launching pad for mastery. The 3-step path to mastery. Clear summarizes it beautifully. Step 2. Reflect and review. Periodically review your habits. Are they actually moving you toward the person you want to be? Many people build habits that made sense once but no longer serve them. Be willing to audit. Let's bring it all home. James Clear wrote a book that isn't really about habits. It's about identity. It's about the gap between who you are and who you want to become, and the daily, unglamorous, invisible work of closing that gap one small decision at a time. Here are the things that matter most from everything we covered. Your outcomes are the lagging indicator of your habits. If you want to predict your future, look at your daily behaviors. Not your goals. Not your dreams. Your habits. Stop asking, how do I motivate myself? And start asking, who am I becoming? Build the identity first. The habits follow naturally. Design your environment. Put the right things in your path. Remove the wrong ones. Stop relying on willpower. It's a finite resource. Your environment is permanent. Push through the valley of disappointment. Your habits are working even when you can't see them working. The ice is freezing. Don't walk away at 31 degrees. And finally, show up. Even imperfectly. Even on the days you don't feel like it. Even if all you do is put on the shoes and stand outside for a minute. Show up. Cast the vote. Keep the identity alive. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Start voting differently. Starting today. If this video helped you, do me a favor. Drop in the comments the one habit you're committing to this week. Not 5 habits. Not a whole new routine. One small, atomic habit. I read every single comment. I'll see you down there. And if you want to go even deeper, I highly recommend picking up the actual book. James Clear's writing is exceptional. Everything in this video is a summary. The book has layers we didn't even touch. Subscribe if you haven't. New deep dive every week. See you in the next one.